And welcome back to our special coverage tribute to Charlie Kirk. I'm Steve Lance. Charlie was a voice for conservatives on college campuses across the nation and an inspiration for many students who aligned with his values and always showing respect to those who didn't. We spoke with students and locals at Utah Valley University, where Charlie's last event was cut short by his assassination. Take a look.
Charlie Kirk, I think, to most Americans, or especially his followers, was a symbol of free speech.
All he was doing, all he's ever done, was speak freely, and we're allowed to do that in America. That's what America is. So for him to get shot, it's ridiculous, and it's disgusting.
I loved everything he stood for. You know, he was just somebody wanting to start conversations in the pursuit of not violence and in the pursuit of helping out college kids, and it's insanely tragic what happened. Then I think Charlie Kirk was a shining light in all of this, in this chaos that we live in right now, just because he gave people the chance to speak, and that's when violence starts, is when we don't speak and we don't talk about stuff. And
I saw this video of Charlie saying, if he passed away, what's something he could be remembered for, right? And it was his faith. And I think that was he truly did do that.
His dedication to our country and what it should stand for. Loved his Christian values as well.
Listening to Charlie, I just gained so much respect for the man because he practiced everything he believed in. He was a true Christian. Mm-hmm. He did everything he could that was right.
I'm from Colombia, and just 2 months ago, a political leader was killed. And I was like, oh, I'm so happy to be here. What a wonderful opportunity. I have to be here in the middle of a political environment and be safe. There, when everything happened, and I just couldn't believe it. I think he was the leader of our generation.
Me and my family watched his videos almost every day. He was a bright light for sure, in a world that seems to have kind of lost its way. Sorry. It's definitely heartbreaking for sure. Feel very saddened for his family, and I think that he brought so much good and so much truth into the world that I truly hope that we can really treat him as a historical figure.
Seeing some of these signs here and stuff, that his voice will be louder than ever now. And I think wherever he is, and he's looking down, and I hope he's at least happy that this message is getting spread to people.
Charlotte, oftentimes we don't fully understand the impact that people had on others until they're gone. We can see there that Charlie was surely impacting all of those people before he was killed, but even more so now. What were some of the qualities that you saw in Charlie that you loved most that will leave a lasting mark on you?
I think Charlie's work ethic was one of my most favorite qualities. I think his tenacity, never taking no for an answer, making things happen. I think one of Charlie's best qualities was just, wanting to have a conversation with people and just, again, being so kind and standing up for the right thing. And I think Charlie, watching those students talk so highly of Charlie, the girl said that he's the leader of our generation, and I 100% stand behind that. I think seeing the response to this horrific tragedy has been kind of comforting in a way, to know that Charlie had so much influence on these people, and he will continue to have influence in the way that he did on myself and Malia as well.
Malia, what impact did Charlie have on not just everybody, but particularly right now in the context of young men? And do you have a story of someone that you knew that he was, that he significantly impacted?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, for the past over a decade now, there has been a war on men waging, and the branding of their masculinity as toxic, when if it's true masculinity in the way that Charlie was, it is with a servant's heart, and it is of protection and providing for others, especially, you know, your wife and your family, and taking care of people and being a leader. And I think, again, Charlie just lived by example. He gave young men a person to look up to that lived out traditional values and had great relationships, was well respected, well spoken, but was always respectful and kind. And he just genuinely was someone that they could look up to and rally behind. And the impact he has had on young men, especially as we've seen in the past election, has been insurmountable. I know my little brother, for example, he's 4 years younger than me, and I kind of mentioned earlier I got involved in politics when it wasn't really cool at all, and I used to try and get him to, you know, come to political events with me or just be involved, and he was always no. That doesn't sound fun. That doesn't sound cool. And I was actually at an AmFest event in Phoenix and was walking just down the halls, and I ran into my little brother, and he didn't even tell me he was there. But I just looked at him and his friends. I was like, "What are you doing here?" And he said, "Oh, well, we love Charlie." And, you know, he has gotten so involved. He mobilized so many of his friends who were very apathetic or apolitical to go vote in the last election. And I know that that's just one example of thousands across the country. And you have now given them a martyr in Charlie, and they are going to forge ahead for him. And the left doesn't know what they've done here.
You heard President Trump the other day actually reflecting on his son, Barron, and how he said, you know, "Dad, I want to meet someone." And President Trump said he thought it was going to be somebody of great stature, like the King of England or somebody. It turned out it was Charlie Kirk. And after that meeting that the president arranged, Barron Trump, according to the president, spoke extremely highly of Charlie and was impacted by him as well. You know, Charlie really believed that ideas were meant to meet in the public square, in the open, on campuses that were sometimes hostile to those ideas. He invited those challenging questions, allowing for moments of civil, sometimes candid, sometimes impassioned debate. Let's take a look at a few clips of him in his element.
Religion gets entangled into a culture and even government. Most wars have started because of that.
So that's a talking point that has no basis, and that's okay because a professor told you that. So let's go to the truth. What religion did Mao Zedong believe in, the great murderer of China who killed 50 million people? He was an atheist. What religion did Joseph Stalin believe in, who killed over 30 million people of the Soviet Union? He was an atheist. So that's 80 million people murdered in 2 countries in just the 20th century that did not believe in any religion. Do you want me to explain psychology?
Well, you can't explain it to the depths of a bachelor's degree or a PhD.
Well, hold
or
on a second. Time out. I've sat here with no notes, no phone, and debated people with PhDs,
because you study
masters.
this because it's your job.
Hold on. I didn't go to college, man. That's the point, is you could do whatever you want without a college degree. You could listen to podcasts, read books.
You know, how do you feel about the black community receiving reparations?
So here's my view, and I want to hear yours, which is that I did not own slaves, and you were not a slave.
Correct.
Right, so we are individuals, and therefore we cannot be held accountable or should receive something from something that didn't happen to us or something we did not do. Secondly, we need to put fathers back in the home.
Yeah, I agree with that.
70% of black kids are raised without a stable father in the country. So if we can find common ground on that, I think that would go a lot further than just giving cash for people that happen to be related to something evil that happened a little while ago.
I just want to say I'm a transgender male. What age should kids be able to get things like hormone therapy? Because I don't know what's true, what's not.
I'm going to have an opinion that very few people will ever tell you, which is I want you to be very cautious putting drugs into your system in the pursuit of changing your body. My prayer for you, and again, very few people will say this, I actually want to see you be comfortable in how you were born.
Yeah.
From inside the egg in the first couple of days? No.
Well, okay, but let's go through that. Isn't that when your DNA was formed?
Yeah.
But then aren't you fundamentally at its core, you are, the DNA is your blueprint for your life. That's who you are. It's a unique marker.
It's my DNA, yeah.
Yes, so if it's not your DNA, why is it your choice? What's the moral difference between a small baby in the womb and a grown Jew who was killed at Auschwitz. What's the moral difference? One is older?
Is a person.
What species is the baby in the womb?
It's a human, but it's
therefore they should have human rights.
No!
They should have human rights.
I do not agree.
Oh, so small humans, no human rights. Grown humans,
it's
human
not
rights.
a small human, it's an embryo.
You just said it was a human species. Christ is not just grace-focused, he's simultaneously truth-focused. He goes up to the woman who had a career in selling herself for sex and said, sin no more. Now, imagine today how much trouble you would get in if you would go up to somebody and say, stop sinning. No, you're being too judgmental. No, you're actually being Christ-like.
I mean, Charlotte, we saw Charlie's brilliance and, sort of what made him who he is, shining right there in some of those exchanges. How was Charlie's approach to open discussion and debate different from anyone else?
Well, I think, one, watching those videos is just incredible, and it's so funny to watch. It's so funny to watch Charlie sit there and talk to these people and watch the other side agree with him. I mean, we just watched 3 of those people agree with him. They're like, yeah, I agree with you. And then that one clip of the girl from Tennessee realizing that she got caught, and she's like, oh wait, I think I just agreed with Charlie Kirk. Like, totally probably ruined her day. But I think also something that Charlie always did was, even when the kids that were on his side were booing, the people that would come up to the mic that obviously didn't agree with Charlie, he consistently reminded them, we're here to have a conversation. Let's be respectful and let's listen to what they have to say. And I think Charlie always wanted to hear from other people's perspectives. I mean, he asked the guy that asked about reparations, here's my opinion and I want to hear your perspective. And then they ended up agreeing on something. I think, Charlie had the ability to have people somehow agree with him because he was, right pretty much all the time. I think Charlie is one of the smartest human beings I ever met. And I think that, and I think people couldn't disagree with that. And so he definitely opened the door and the floodgates for people to start having discussions. He says, when we stop talking, bad things happen. And I think that that's something that we have to continue forging forward on.
That's so true. Something that Charlie said, exactly what you're saying, is that, when we resort to getting our information in these echo chambers online and don't engage in civil dialogue with others to see their humanity, that's when civil war can actually potentially take place. Malia, with that said, what do we gain as a society from frank, open discussion and direct civil engagement?
As Charlotte also just referenced, I'm sure almost everybody has seen by now that clip of Charlie going viral that he said, when we stop talking, bad things happen. And I think in having open, honest discussions, maintaining decorum and being respectful, it humanizes the other side. And that's why they want us to stop talking, because they want to dehumanize us. They want to categorize us as unhuman, or, whether it be Nazi, fascist, this, that, they'll attribute anything to us as opposed to humanizing us, because then it makes it okay, quote unquote, to carry out horrific acts of violence against us, as we, of course, have just seen. And I think that in furthering dialogue and in continuing to talk to each other, Charlotte referenced this as well, where we find ourselves agreeing at least on something more often than not. And when we can come together and find at least a starting point, we can make progress from there and we can move towards a common goal. And that only happens through open and honest dialogue.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that a lot of the, Marxist influence that's, really infiltrated a lot of our education, that sort of deems certain language as microaggressions. People need to take a step back and realize that at the end of the day, a lot of it is calculated by people that don't have the greatest intentions and put you in a box to think a certain way. Charlie's message really resonated with students and alumni around the world. Turning Point chapters here in the United States and internationally have really been holding all of these grand commemoration events over the last few days. Let's take a look at some of those.
he was an example to the rest of us, someone else that was in our age range, that understood the generation that we were in, and he was an example to us that we don't have to be afraid, that we can stand up for our beliefs eloquently and peacefully without fear.
To cower, to be afraid, or we can do what Charlie wanted us to do.
His intention was to keep free speech prevalent and operational on college campuses where it should be most protected, right? That's what a university is for.
Problems today is because there's two sides to every story, but both sides won't respect the other side's opinion. And I think it's tragic what happened to Charlie Kirk. What a wonderful young man he was.
Really to commemorate his life, what he stood for, what he stood against, and really an end to political violence, because it shouldn't be that we should live in a world where, just for having an opinion you should be killed. I think that's abhorrent, and it's a really negative turn for Western civilization.
That we will all start speaking out. We will all become a Charlie.
Malia, Charlie was a leader. Why was his movement and message able to resonate with people, not just in the United States, but as we just saw there, around the world?
I think because he simply spoke the truth, and he spoke common sense values, and that transcends even political ideology, or it should, and people find solace in someone that is willing to forge ahead and say what might be unpopular because it's true and because the truth matters. And I think that in a world as crazy as ours right now, I know something Charlotte said earlier was kind of the last normal year it feels like that we had was 2019. And so for the past 5 years, just insane things have been happening, whether it's been, targeted assassinations of our president or of prominent political leaders like Charlie, or, masking our children and locking down businesses, and just nonsensical things that have been happening for 5 years at this point. I think people look to what is true and what is right, and Charlie was the embodiment of that. And I know we, just showed a few clips, and we're rolling tapes of vigils across the country and across the world. And I just wanted to let everyone know, if they're in the DC area, that we are having a DC vigil for Charlie tomorrow at 6 p.m. The location is yet to be announced, but you can find it online. My Twitter, Malia, MALIA _Shirley, SHIRLEY, or I'll let Charlotte plug her as well. We have the registration link there, and registration is required, and it will be safe and secure, and we hope that anyone in the DC area will come celebrate Charlie's life and legacy with us.
Charlotte, as somebody who participated at Turning Point, you've seen this movement grow beyond our nation, with Charlie's message, spreading across the world. I actually was getting text messages this morning from people in South Korea, absolutely devastated by it, and they're having their own vigils there and parades and marches just for Charlie Kirk in South Korea. How has he been able to penetrate and touch people from all across? And tell us a little bit more about what people can expect at that vigil right here in the nation's capital tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's astounding to watch Charlie's influence spread across the nation. I honestly think that people knew Charlie had the possibility of being president one day. And they couldn't allow that to happen. I think something Malia touched on was that, Charlie brought back common sense values. He made it cool to be a conservative. When the attack on white men was happening, especially from 2020 to 2022, I think, Charlie gave, straight white men the ability to, be confident that there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being born in the body that you're in and having respect for others and, talking the truth and always doing the right thing is the most important. And, I think over the course of, the last 10 years and the legacy that Turning Point has built, Turning Point USA, I mean, we've seen it grow from Turning Point USA to Turning Point Action, Turning Point Faith, Turning Point Academy. I mean, I could go on about all of these different Turning Point organizations that have spread not just across the United States, but across the nation. I mean, we see Turning Point UK, putting on, vigils for Charlie. And, especially over there, I think it's super important that we understand how influential Charlie was. And yes, like Malia said, with our vigil in DC tomorrow, we are devastated that we absolutely have to be doing this on a Sunday and that this is what our Sunday looks like tomorrow. But, you were showing pictures of the Turning Point USA, all the flowers that are outside the headquarters. I literally just left there from back in May, and it's really heartbreaking to watch all of that. But our vigil tomorrow, yes, it's going to be indoors, and we are really looking forward to seeing everybody there. If you're a DC, Turning Point alumni, or just, a regular conservative who loved Charlie, or just anyone who wants to celebrate Charlie's life, please join us. We are, Malia and I put this on, 2 days ago?
2 days ago.
And it has absolutely exploded into this massive event. And, that honestly is just me and Malia going back to our roots and doing what we know best, which is, mobilizing people, getting them engaged, getting them involved. And we don't know there's nothing else we know how to do except do that to honor Charlie's legacy. So please come. My Twitter is @_CharlottePrez. I'm pretty sure that's the right one. Just CharlottePerez. And so we definitely look forward to seeing everybody there and, looking forward to it.
And it sounds like it's going to be a message of hope and love and peace. And it's funny too, Charlotte, as you mentioned, Charlie's political prospects. When you look back and think of everything that he's achieved, which is so much, he wasn't even of legal age to be the president of the United States or run for president, and wasn't going to be there for quite some time. 35 the age, died at 31. Amid her grief, Mrs. Erica Kirk reflected on Charlie's legacy and said the work he began will continue. Here's a look.
If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country. In this world, you have no idea. You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry. To everyone listening tonight across America, the movement my husband built will not die.
Charlotte, we heard from Charlie's widow, Erica, that we just saw and heard from right there last night. A lot of questions that many in the conservative circle were wondering is, we're going to carry the torch, but who would be the torch bearer? Erica Kirk, extremely powerful words. How can Charlie continue to be an inspiration as supporters take up his mission?
I think Erica said it perfectly. Charlie has an army of people behind him who are ready to go to war for him at any date and time, and that has not changed, and that will never change. Charlie's inspiration, I think we saw that we've had 18,000 people reach out to people over at Turning Point USA, Turning Point Action. How can we get involved? Our Turning Point Action, my old coworkers are telling me today they've had so many people apply to come into work for Turning Point. We've had multiple students reach out about how to create a chapter on campus. I don't know if it's possible to create more chapters. They cover everywhere. So, I think that's going to be incredible to watch. I mean, the movement is only just beginning. And like Erica said, they have no idea what they have unleashed. And she is speaking the truth. They watched us back in November, 24 after they tried to take out our incredible president, and they watched us get him across the finish line no matter what. They are going to see a vengeance from the conservative movement and from the Turning Point family like they've never seen. And quite frankly, I'm very excited for it.
To that point, Malia, Charlie launched Turning Point out of his parents' garage as an 18-year-old with no money, no name recognition, really just a thought and a dream. Since then, Matt from Turning Point USA has a message out on X saying that they have 18,000 new chapter requests since Erica spoke. He said that Turning Point had 9,000 college chapters and 1,100 high school chapters prior to this. Really an astronomical uptick of requests for chapters. Where do you see Turning Point USA going from here?
The only place to go is forward. And as Charlotte said, there are so many people committed to continuing Charlie's legacy. Of course, Erica will be such a prominent part of this, and everyone in the current Turning Point family, but everyone who, might have been a little politically apathetic before, this has ignited something within people the likes of which we have never seen. And as Charlotte said, I look forward to seeing people's involvement, to seeing the way that they get involved through establishing chapters, signing up with their local county parties, chasing ballots in midterms next year, whatever that looks like, whatever their abilities and strengths and talents and capacities are. Charlie was an example. He started Turning Point with nothing out of his parents' garage, and he is the epitome of what it means to work hard, to put your nose to the grindstone, and as he always said, be better, work harder. And that's what we're going to continue to do, and that's what everyone who knew him, loved him, or even just admired him and looked to him, we're all going to do it for him.
Charlotte Perez, Malia Shirley, we just want to thank you sincerely for coming on at this really difficult moment as you continue to mourn a very close friend that you knew so well. We really appreciate your perspective tonight. And we're going to leave the audience tonight with a clip from a tribute video for Charlie Kirk put out by the White House earlier yesterday.
Only in America is it possible to say, you know what, I don't like the way the country is going, and to do something about it. Take that risk. Take that leap of faith. Stay involved. Trust God and act obediently. Romans 12:2 verse. That God will use all things for good for those who love him. It's bigger than you. I want you to remember that. It is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. You are here to make somebody else's life better, the pursuit of liberty and freedom. You know what gives me strength?
From the nation's capital in Washington, D.C., I'm Steve Lance. Thank you so much for joining us tonight to honor Charlie Kirk's short life of remarkable conviction. As we mourn his loss, we come together to carry his legacy forward, to heal division through open discussion, and to turn to faith amid confusion.